At this time, I'd like to call the Lee County Board of Supervisors regular meeting, February 17, 2015 to order. First item on the agenda is public hearing. Proposed revision and amendment to the Lee County Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance. The Lee County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 17, 2015 at 5 p.m. in the General District Courtroom of the Lee County Courthouse in Jonesboro, Virginia. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive comment on the proposed revision and amendment to the Lee County Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for public comment. Seeing there is none, we'll close it. Further discussion, Mr. Poe? You got anything on that?
As I said last month, all changes in this ordinance are simply due to changes at the state level where they moved erosion and sediment from the Department of Conservation and Recreation to the authority of the Department of Environmental Quality. And so that's the only changes that I'm aware of that have been made. I've reviewed it. The actual work of doing this was done by Tim Miles at the Soil and Water District office, but I've reviewed everything in there, and that's the only changes that have been made. If it's the board's pleasure, we would need a motion to approve or to adopt the amended ordinance.
Okay, at this time I need a motion for the amendment.
So moved.
The motion second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Next on the agenda is departmental reports. Litter and recycling, Josh Flanger.
Good evening. My report for January is for community service. There was 120 people in the program, but only 23 participated for 119 hours and 110 bags. That was an average of 5 bags per person and 5 hours per person participating. 19% participation. The reason it's down is due to the weather. It's cold and stuff, and people they won't go pick up trash. This month there was nobody that completed it or nobody removed for inactivity, and I signed 9 new people up for community service. I had a complaint regarding where Estes Brothers Construction was taking their shingles from a building they were demolishing in Jonesville. So I went to Estes Brothers Construction and asked them, and they told me I needed to track down the foreman. I tracked down the foreman, and he told me they were taking it out to a farm on Flindertown Road. So I went out there and investigated it, and I did not find any evidence of them burning shingles or putting shingles into the ground. They said they were putting them in the back of a dump truck, and so I went back to the office, and the shingles was in the back of the dump truck, and they took those to the transfer station for disposal. On January 21st, I hosted the monthly KSBB meeting. We had it here in the conference room of the Lee County Courthouse. We discussed fundraising for the organization and elected officers for the 2015 year. I was elected treasurer of the organization. On January 23rd, I had a call stating that someone had lost a bag of trash on the 4-lane in front of the bowling alley. So I took the trustees I had that day, and we went up there and picked up the trash, which was actually 3 bags. Also that day, I had noticed that the VDOT had the salt spreaders in the back of their truck, so I went on some roads and picked up the orange bags that day. I went to Veterans Memorial Highway, Left Poor Valley Road, Clyde Pearson Road, and Oconeta Road. On January 29th, I attended the semi-annual meeting for the Southwest Virginia Community Corrections. We met in Lebanon and discussed the current budget, where the money was going and what they were spending it on and how much was coming in from supervision fees. We also discussed the goals they have met and the goals they have set for the second half of the year. On complaints, I had a complaint of a house located on Town Branch. I went to that residence, investigated the matter. I've sent out the first letter. I've not had no response, so I will be sending out the second letter this week. And last year there was a complaint on Oconeta Road by the culvert. When I had a crew, we actually went out and cleaned that up. There was 2 pieces of tin, 3 tires, 2 blocks, and about half a bag of trash. But that has been cleaned up, and that issue has been resolved. Mainly I've been working on cleanups. I've actually spent several days in Miller's Chapel. I have each day broken down what I got each day, but I'm just going to read the totals that I've got out of there so far. I've got 174 bags, 61 tires, 7 couches, 2 sinks, 4 box springs. There was 5 toilets, 3 baby car seats, 3 TVs, an old cook stove, a regular stove, and a boat. We got a whole boat out of there, a plastic barrel that's used for watering cattle. And then we got 7 trailer loads of brush, 3 trailer loads of blocks and brick, 3 trailer loads of lumber, which is 2x4s, plywood, stuff like that. And there was about 4 trailer loads of metal. I know that the trash needs to be picked up along the back roads. I know that is an issue. I will be starting that soon. I only have about a month and a half, depending left on the weather, that I can use for cleanups, because once it gets warm in Snakes, we can't get down there and get the tires and stuff because they can get in that stuff, and that's when I'm going to start the back road cleanups. But hopefully the next month or half I will be able to finish Miller's Chapel. It's been a bad place and there's still a lot in there. My agenda for March is to continue with the cleanup, to work on my complaints and start getting the back road cleanups going. Are there any questions?
I discussed with you there a while back, and you said that, you know, you was kind of torn between. Some was wanting you to do the dump site cleanups, and what I was seeing was a lot of trash on, you know, the first half mile of each back road.
Right.
And you said you didn't know which way to turn, you know, so I don't know what the board's pleasure is, but, you know, and I know you've got a certain amount of time with the weather to get the dump sites cleaned up, but we've got a lot of trash problems on these back roads. And like I said, I don't know what the board, what their pleasure is. Me, I'd like to see us go ahead and get started on them as soon as possible. I know we've got cleanups to do, but you know, it seems like the trash is growing, and especially after it snows, you really see it. So.
Right. I mean, it's whichever you all want to set the priority. Either ways, it doesn't matter to me. You need one way or the other to go. It's just hard to do this and do that too at the same time. But like I said, if you want the roads, we'll go get the roads and stuff, and then try to get back.
Well, I was thinking, you know, if you could schedule your days, you know, schedule the cleanup for your dump sites, and then alternate some days for that. I mean,
I usually go out 2 to 3 days a week, and then if there's a meeting that week, and then office work and stuff too. So it's hard to schedule, you know, 4 or 5 days out of the office, because then I get 25 to 30 phone calls a day. So if I'm out of the office 3 days, I come back and there's 75 messages. So, but I'll see what I can work out and try to get a couple of days scheduled for the roads and continue with the cleanups as well then.
it's board pleasure, Mr. Crabtree.
Whatever the consensus of the board is fine with me.
Mr. Mosley,
That's fine.
try to get it on there.
I'd just like to say one thing. I appreciate the efforts there on the cleanup of Miller's Chapel. I think we had talked about that before. It's probably been there since I was little.
We found stuff from like 1965. and
Yeah,
stuff.
it doesn't surprise me. But I agree with Mr. Chairman and the rest of the board. However, I did see a lady out picking up trash on a road the other day when it was nice, and that's helpful.
Yeah, it
If
is.
they can get out, but like you said, when it's cold, they don't want to get
Right.
out.
If I could get
So-
everyone signed up to do that, it would work out.
Right, it would,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I agree.
How much more junk is that done?
At Miller's
Yes,
Chapel?
what percentage have you?
I would say I've got about 50% of it out of there, is what I've got so far. It's from the top of the hill all the way down to the bottom of the road, the whole bank and stuff. It's just full of trash, and you pull up one layer and then there's another layer underneath it.
Are there signs there?
For no littering?
Mhm.
No, but there will be soon. I have signs to put up there.
Okay.
I know in the past we'd scheduled some joint cleanups with Wise and Scott. Have you talked to them maybe about helping with that, or?
I have, but they have so many going on, it's, you know, that it's hard to schedule something, and I'm trying to get something scheduled that's coming up to work with them and stuff that is in the works, but they have so many of their own, it's hard to get them and stuff. I mean, they'll come and help you do one.
Yeah, I knew we swapped today.
Yeah,
You know,
usually about one is what you'll get them to come and do and stuff, so. But I have talked with
Is
them
that
and
the biggest
stuff.
one we've got left?
Probably, that's probably the biggest one. I mean, there's a couple that's probably the same as that, ain't no bigger than that, so.
I'll be looking something into to get the next big one anyway.
Right, I will.
Good job, sounds like you've been busy.
I have.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you all.
Next is solid waste, Gary Collinsworth.
Good evening. The trash collected for the month of January was 1,019.31 tons. Tires collected was 7.96 tons. In comparison to January of 2014, we have received 143.39 tons more garbage and received 2.63 tons more tires in the month of January of 2015. We've been dealing with the wind at the transfer station over the last few months. It blows trash off the tipping pad, scatters throughout the property, and at times we've got a lot to pick up. This is usually picked up in the evening after the routes are done. When truck drivers come in, we'll try to pick it up. This issue will be eliminated in the future once the new transfer station gets finished. That'll help out a whole lot for us. Other issues due to the wind were the shingles getting blown off the terminal building at the airport, metal roof over the oil storage at the transfer station has also broken loose. We replaced the shingles at the airport last week, and we will have to work on the other building as soon as we get the opportunity. We took a day that the temperatures got up into the 50s and washed trucks. We got the pickups, the rough truck, dump truck, and the garbage trucks washed. And this took care of the trucks that run every day. And as far as the others, we'll catch those on another day when temperatures, allow for it. We have also worked on a couple more convenience center sites. Blackwater was taken care of by removing all the dumpsters and grading the site. We then covered the site with fresh gravel and replaced the dumpsters. The same procedure was used at the Hunter's Gap site, with fresh gravel being placed at that site as well. The Rose Hill site needs to be worked in the upcoming weeks, and the area where the furniture and appliances are placed, it needs to be leveled up and then gravel spread over the entire site. We have 3 dumpsters repaired and ready to go out in areas where dumpsters are in need of replacement. We have a total of 17 dumpsters that have been brought into the transfer station and in need of repairs, and they are as follows. We have 1 in the garage with minor repairs that is being worked on at this time, and 4 additional dumpsters in need of minor repairs. We have 8 dumpsters that are in need of entire bottoms replaced. We have 5 dumpsters that are in need of both sides and bottom repairs. We have 23 dumpsters throughout the county that need to be replaced now, and those cans will need to be removed from circulation as they are brought in. In the last couple of weeks, we have scrapped 29 dumpsters that we had sitting at the transfer station that are beyond repairs. And they are approximately 42 other dumpsters throughout the county that are in need of some repairs out of the 253 dumpsters that are used every day. We had 2 employees to begin work last month. Murphy started around the middle of January, and Stanley started in the 1st of February. Murphy, who is at the St. Charles and Turner Stipple sites, he's been keeping the convenience centers clean, managing them well. Stanley's doing fine with the garbage trucks and understands the routes for both ends of the county, and will start on other trucks to learn those routes as well. Once he completes the additional training, it will free us up to start other projects. The upcoming projects are as follows. Repair additional dumpsters to allow for the replacement at the open sites. Fence repair at some of the sites, and possibly changing the layouts of those sites, especially St. Charles and Ben-Hur. Remove the old roof from a communication building, replaced with a new roof. And if the weather permits, a ditching project that was on the list from last year that we were unable to work on due to the weather. there any other questions about our report for this month?
Mr. Gregory?
No, sir.
Mr. Motion?
How many total dumpsters do you have?
We've got 253 in circulation. That's every day at all the sites.
Thank you.
We got a few that we kind of use as spare when we get a chance to work on them and get them out. We got a few sitting around that, like I said, the ones that we're in need of repair. But the ones we repair, we try to get those out to the unmanned, unfenced sites, just due to the, actually the quality of the dumpster, basically. Yeah. When they get burnt, they won't last long after that, so we don't want to put, any really good can at those sites. Try to make those last as long as we can.
Mr. Flynn? No. Ms. Rowe? Thank you, Gary.
Well, I've got another item under my reports. You'll find the enclosure in your board packets under the holiday schedule. Due to the operating schedule at the City of Bristol, I was requesting the board to review the holiday schedule that's been recently changed. I realized that the sites were closed on holidays that were not usually celebrated. And the sites that were previously closed on 11 holidays. The current holiday schedule has been changed to only New Year's, Thanksgiving, and Christmas Day. I'm requesting that 3 additional holidays be added to the current convenience center schedule. I'm asking the board to consider adding holidays, Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day. Those are more typically celebrated. And this change would keep the sites from being overrun with the garbage on the days that Bristol is closed, and Lee County, cannot dispose of it. We would be open for the Lee Jackson, Martin Luther King, Presidents, Columbus, and Veterans Day. But I'm asking that we change that, also change the operating schedule at the transfer station to also, make them both the same. But right now, some of the days that we're closed, we can't take it to Bristol. Some of those days that we're open, we're open, but Bristol's closed and we can't go nowhere with it. So I was trying to see if the board would consider making everything uniform for both the transfer station operation and also the convenience centers.
We don't necessarily have to run trucks all the time, do we?
No, but the days that, if they're open, they accumulate for a whole extra day, and most of those on Mondays. And then when we get to sites on Tuesdays, by the time the trucks gets there, everything's already overrun and on the ground. So if we could close those on those 3 additional days, which 4th of July, the major holidays has not been the ones where things have been piled up. It's the not so much celebrated holidays like the President's Day. People don't typically look at those as holidays, and they take the trash out on those days as well. But the more celebrated, they don't tend to get out as much. They kind of understand that holiday schedule more on that aspect of it. But I put in with the enclosure here the operating schedule from the City of Bristol with the days that they've got closed. But I was just asking y'all to kind of reconsider that, and that way contractors, would also have the same operating schedule at the transfer station where they come in. The towns and stuff, the town of Pennington, town of Jonesville, they operate on that schedule as well with their holidays. So just trying to make everything kind of uniform, both out at the sites and at the transfer station.
We'll discuss it.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Once we get the transfer station complete, that wouldn't be a problem, would it? You could store it. Is that correct?
No, not really.
I mean, I know we can't leave anything on the pad, but
Well, it's not supposed to be. It has to be containerized, regardless. Even if it's dumped in the tipping pad, and even with the doors closed, it still has to be loaded on a trailer. So it can't. I mean, just because we got it in a building, we won't be able to just put it on the pad and leave it.
that's my question.
Okay. Any other questions?
We'll discuss it and let you know.
Okay.
Gary? Come on.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, if I could, I'd like to amend the agenda to accommodate our friends from Lynn Wisco.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Mr. Skinner, Mr. Vickers from Lynn Wisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a handout here. Got copies. This is going to be some, and of course we've got Larry Vickers here, Lynn Wisco's chairman. This is going to be old hat to a couple of you, most of you, I guess. Larry and Jason, you, Carl, were all in attendance when we have been having some discussions over the last 4 months probably at Lynn Wisco in terms of what are we going to do to kind of reinvigorate our economic development initiatives and maybe go back to some of the basics and realizing everybody's in a pretty tough shape right now because of the economy and so forth. But just to give you a little bit of an overview, March of 2015 marks the 50th anniversary of the first time Lynn Wisco met as an organized group. That preceded the Virginia Area Development Act, which created Virginia Planning Districts Commission. We were originally known as the Lynn Wisco Planning and Economic Development Commission, I believe is the proper name. And again, when we met, not unlike what's going on today, there was a lot of concern about what's going on in the regional economy and realizing that opportunities for regional solutions to economic crisis and economic downturn, may be a good way of taking a look at it. So what we did with the help of Larry, we've been putting some information together, and I'd like to thank Larry for this. Is actually a presentation that he put together over the weekend, but. Just wanted to again use this as some talking points. But over that 50 years, our unemployment has remained relatively the same if you compare it to the state. Our poverty rates have remained, although we've had improvement in the poverty rate. The rate has declined. It is still relative to the same level as it has been 50 years ago with the state. So we've got to maybe take a look and do something different, and we've had a lot of experience with regard to some of the initiatives, the Duffield Development Authority being one of the first regional initiatives that Lynn Wisco undertook with the industrial park at Duffield. Of course, Lee County was a full partner with regard to that. That of course is now sunsetted out. There's been a return on that investment to this community and so forth. But Virginia Tech recently released a report, a workforce skills analysis at the request of Workforce Area 1, the Workforce Development Board, including Lee, Scott, Wise counties, as well as Buchanan, Dixon, Tazewell, and Russell counties. And what they found that some of the things I guess we already knew, but they were able to document that the region's population is aging, 120% increase in people 55 years and older, 98% reduction in people aged 54 and under since 2004. Our outflow work patterns show more workers, 6,847 are leaving the region. Again, that 7-county region, including Norton. National educational attainment in the region continues to be low overall. 30 of the ages 25 to 64, 30% have no high school diploma. Over 50% have a high school diploma or less. Average wages, $42,000 for the region, only 72% of the national average. If you compare that against mining, quarrying, and oil and gas extraction at $87,000, manufacturing average earnings of $52,000, healthcare and social assistance The average is 40,000. Of course, we're losing jobs in industries with higher wage earning occupation, as in mining is the most prevalent. Continue with the Virginia Tech study, coal production in 1990 was at 46.9 million short tons of coal. That's some coal that, Mr. Mosley, you had your hands on back in 1990. There were 12,000 regional coal mining jobs in 1990. In 2013, that has declined to 17 million short tons and 3,800 jobs in 2014. Manufacturing jobs in Southwest Virginia, 7,500 jobs in the 1990s, only 3,117 positions in 2014 in manufacturing. Skills gaps exist as documented in the study, including engineering and technology. The so-called soft skills, including communication, customer service, English language, writing and reading, and in some instances, supervisory management knowledge. Regional manufacturing employers, the challenge is to find qualified workers. A lot of substance abuse problems that we have to deal with. Aging workers, 45% of team assemblers are over 45, while 21% are over 55. Again, continue with the Virginia Tech study. The fastest growing segment, jobs related to services for the elderly and persons with disabilities, at 309% increase. However, workers in this segment earned only $20,074 in 2014, only about half of the overall average earnings for the industry occupations in the region. And they're frequently filled by females. 16.4% of the health and social assistance occupations were filled by males. Tourism. 4,000 jobs in 2014, 166 million, generating 2.67 million in local tax receipts. And of course, I know, Ms. Rowe, you've been very active with regard to the ATV and the Trails Authority and so forth, and we're seeing some bright spots like that in this data. However, many of these jobs are lower paid, lower wage occupations: counter attendants, cafeteria, food concession, coffee shop cooks, fast food maids, and housekeeping cleaners and dishwashers. So, continuing on with the Virginia Tech study, the regional economic status is in serious trouble. If you look at that study, replacement jobs pay significantly less than what we're losing. Left unchecked, the region's economic status may be in a death spiral. There's a growing number of local folks becoming dependent on social services or leaving the area with this mailbox economy, as we call it. Substance abuse is continuing to grow. Our best and brightest are getting an education. Job opportunities are limited at best. Without job opportunities, the educated leave the area for career opportunities. Brain drain. Future regional leaders will no longer be available to us. So what are we doing right now is not working very well. So one of the things that we had talked about, again, coming out of the Wisco meeting, is the need for branding and marketing. Of course, branding is about getting your prospects to see you as the only one that provides a solution to their problem. It delivers the message clearly, confirms your credibility, connects your target prospects emotionally, and motivates the buyer, and concretes user loyalty. And marketing is communicating the value of a product or service to customers for the purpose of selling the product or service. In the Richmond metro area, for example, $2 million is spent on regional marketing by those local units of government in the regional marketing program. Over 30,000 job openings currently exist in that area. Marketing objections: price, complacency, fear of change, trust, personal politics, external input rather than timing. We're also fighting the Appalachian stereotype. I believe we are, the Appalachian American is probably the last cultural group that it's still socially acceptable to make fun of on national media. If you review back to some of the national news that's been in the region recently, Scott Pelley of CBS News reported on Ram last year with the 60 Minutes health wagon bus visit. He made a slow roll past some dilapidated, deteriorating buildings. I still remember it was actually a shot of downtown Dungannon, even though he was purportedly being Wise County. But again, that stereotype still exists. The storyline featured an area with healthcare needs and economic distress. So we can agree or disagree, but that's the outside view of our world. So what do we do to change this Appalachian stereotype, you ask? There's things to overcome the Appalachian stereotype objections is to, we need to clean up the trash along the highways as a simple solution, remove old junk cars, machineries, and so forth, dotting the landscape. We need to pay particular attention to our ordinances that that provide for household maintenance or maintenance of lots and buildings, enforce the building codes with the dilapidated and abandoned buildings, strengthen the building codes to match and or exceed the competition, address zoning codes to match or exceed the competition. We have to have a sense of urgency. Community leaders and citizens need to be able to sail the region. Fundamental recommendations include review and upgrade existing property maintenance codes and implement standards equal to or exceeding competing areas. We need to spit and shine the area and encourage everyone to be a salesman. We need to supplement the regional economic development and marketing strategy to attract outside companies. We need to establish an economic revenue sharing strategy between the counties. We need to continue our tourism marketing and entrepreneur startups and business growth. Chamber of Commerce and Murby are two examples of where we've been doing that. We need to go back and review some of our family ties, and we have a lot of folks, of course, that have left the area, and if we could somehow get to them and make them aware of opportunities, there may be opportunities for further economic development for folks coming back in the area. And I know the Lee County Chamber of Commerce has been taking a look at that. We need to emphasize education and the importance of pursuing degrees that are marketable, including STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We don't need to leave studies and ideas sitting on the shelves. We need to execute the fundamentals to perfection. I know that's what Mr. Bailey would talk to his basketball team about when he's trying to win the championship. One of the last things I thought Larry picked up on this. It's from a recent graphic that was in, I believe, Kingsport Times News, Larry. It talks about Tennessee neighbors value leadership and working together, and the future lies with us. But as you can see, they're kind of working cross purposes with each other. So again, we just wanted to come down and we were encouraged at the last Winnewisco board meeting to visit each of the county boards of supervisors and the city of Norton. You happen to be the first, however, so I've got to work on my presentation skills, I'm sure, but we wanted to, as you contemplate putting together your budget this coming year, we'd like to have some further discussion about what we can do on a regional basis. I serve as a member of the Virginia Cofield Economic Development Board of Directors, and I have for some time been frustrated with our pace of seeking outside investment and lack of doing anything to help local entrepreneurs. They don't really have a local entrepreneurship program, which I think is a real shame. And we're having a strategic planning retreat this coming Friday at Lebanon, and I would encourage you to maybe seek out Ms. Muncie, I believe is the Lee County's rep on the VCTA board. If there's anything that any messages that you all would like to be kind of talked about at the leadership retreat at VCTA, just to talk about what can you do better, what can we do differently. It's not, our economic development is not the same as it was 25 years ago when VCTA was first created. So we've got a brand new chairman that's just been named Ron McCall. So you may know Ron from the city of Norton. He served on the school board as well as city council. And I'm looking for You know, I'm looking for good leadership skills from Ron certainly, but you know, we need to, you know, we're sitting on some funds that we need to figure out how to use in a more effective way. I don't think we're using our assets very effectively at EC, and that's one of the things I hope to be able to change in the coming year and coming years. So, Claire, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Just one thing that caught my eye in there. Richmond spends $2 million in marketing. Well, we don't have that for. But they have 30,000 jobs up there they can't fill. If we could cipher off 500 of them, we'd be tickled to death. And if we're gonna, if you go out and you're selling something, that's a good argument. They can't fill them, but we can. And I think the thing that we really need to do is start calling on the executives. And we got to get to the right people and sell our area. And we've got some objections we got to come over to, but the thing that to me, and I spent quite a bit of time just looking through this over the weekend, is we've become complacent. And we're not aggressive enough to go out and get it. We have 3 EDA boards, and we don't have a central area where we actually go and look for the business. We're competing against the big boys, and we can't continue to compete amongst ourselves. We got to compete as a region, not as an individual county. And we put that together with some sort of revenue sharing. Don't matter where it's built, we share equally in it, and everybody wins.
I think that Mr. Skinner, correct me if I'm wrong, we're kind of in a unique geographical area where Tennessee are able to offer some things that Virginia can't, Kentucky, North Carolina can't. And I was just wondering if there's any funds. I know the dilapidated structure is something that this board has looked at in Lee County. Does the ARC offer any type of money to address those issues? Because it seems to us, we look at these structures and there's so many tax liens and things against them that if we were to tear them down, I don't know if we'd ever recoup our money or not.
Yeah, nothing from ARC. When I was at Wise County, we were having the same discussion, and we put some money in our budget, and I can't remember exactly how much it was, but we put money in the budget, and you know, through our public works department, we had a couple of very talented, I won't say backhoe operators, but whatever the piece of equipment is that can go out and grab things. It's kind of like a backhoe, but a big backhoe.
Excavator.
Yeah, excavator. Thank you, Larry.
We had 25,000. I think that's correct.
50.
Yeah.
It's okay, 50 set aside to do that.
Once the building official would declare something, dilapidated, and I think there's some type of he's got some guidelines and ordinance that he can go by, and if we could, and then we'd work with the building owner, and a lot of times if the building owner couldn't afford, we'd take it down, go ahead and put a lien on it for when that piece of property was cleaned up and cleared up, county would eventually be repaid. We went ahead and assess what our costs were and plus the landfill and disposal costs, and put that on a lien and kind of handled it that way. And to be honest with you, I don't know how many of those after the fact have come back and gone into private hands and those back taxes and those back fees have been paid on them. But that was one of the ways we were addressing it in Wise County. So.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just saying, we have East Tennessee, which is prospering. You have Southwest Virginia across the border, which is not. It seems as though Tennessee is willing to put the money into East Tennessee. Virginia is not. As you say, there's 30,000 jobs in Richmond, which is unfilled. Virginia has people wanting to work, or wanting to get the skills to work. What's wrong? I agree with what you said. We need our industrial development boards to get together and go out and hunt and cold call and get somebody in here. And then we need our politicians to get the money down here. I mean, it's ridiculous for all our taxpayers paying their taxes and then all the money going to Northern Virginia and to the Atlantic coast without any support for this section of Virginia. It's true, it's really truly true when they say Virginia stops at Richmond, because people on that side of the state doesn't even know we exist. But people in Tennessee definitely know that East Tennessee exists. I mean, it makes me angry to think about it. What's going on?
One of the programs I deal with, Mr. Schlemp, is a leadership program, statewide leadership program known as Lead Virginia. And every fall, we host approximately 50 or 55 business leaders from all across the state. And it's always amazing to me, a good 30% have never been west of Roanoke when we take them. But this year, we're going to take them to Cumberland Gap. We've never had this program all the way to Farley County, so we're going to take them to where Virginia begins and let them see the real Southwest Virginia. So, and it's amazing the professional relationships I've made, and as a result of that program, and the Bus College of Veterinary Medicine is going to be helpful to us and going to host us as we need room for presentations and so forth, and we bring people in to make presentations, talk about our economic development, but we also talk about some of our serious health issues we have and the substance abuse issues. It's not the Chamber of Commerce speech, because when we've got that much horsepower in the room, I feel like it's necessary to pick everybody's brain to see what they can do. And I actually got a call last week from a lady I met 2 years ago they're searching for somebody to partner with on some oral health issues, and I'm going to see if that's something that Lynn Wisco can do. If not, we'll get it shoveled off to somebody else, maybe the health department or somebody like that. But it's all those, I think we all got to be in sales mode and help sell the region, and look for opportunities like that. So I don't have any specific requests for you tonight, except let you know that this is kind of the first stab at it. I hope to be able to bring some more definitive ideas to you at some point in the near future, and so we can start working on a joint combined effort. So.
I think dialogue's where over the past 20 years, we've focused pretty heavy on water and sewer projects and stuff, and which we still got some areas that really need that attention. And I think the leaders that I've spoken to, and Scott and Wise, City of Norton, here in Lee, that was one of our main concerns is economic development. And what can we do? The push needs to be put on to see what we can do. And I think some of the stuff that Mr. Vickers and I talked about here a couple of months ago, some of the stuff that he's put on paper here are issues that we really need to look at. And instead of being branded, as a certain entity in Appalachia, we would need to take Appalachia and make our own brand. And I feel like that's a good direction we're headed in. And like I said, we really got started at the last Lynn Wisco meeting, trying to get this push on. And I think that if we push as hard on this as we did on broadband and on water and sewer, I think we make a difference in this community and in this region.
It's not all doom and gloom. We need to recognize that we certainly have some bright spots, and you've already mentioned that certainly the broadband assets we've got are second to none. The new vet school and the medical school in the west, that as it impacts the western part of Lee County, those are tremendous assets that we need to figure out how we can. And you and I have talked about this. We need to figure out how we can take advantage of that, and we'll continue to look at that as a strategy. And certainly Central Sewer in Western Lee County will do much to help that as we work on that.
Yeah, that's back on board now. The Army Corps of Engineers taking it back up, and it's going to be about anywhere from a $12 to $15 million project. And I've had several business owners on the western end wondering how much more business they could actually do if we had access to a motel and, a nice restaurant and stuff. And that's something that's in our grasp because it's, we've got one of 30 veterinary schools in the United States. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And I know maybe on the coast in Virginia, Charlie, they may not know it, but we've got a veterinary school down here in Little Lee County. So, but it's I think we've got some encouraging news here in Lee County. I think we don't need to stop there though, man. It's like I said, in a regional. One of the things that Larry was talking about was doing this regional deal with IDAs or EDAs in the region. There's been some other counties in the state that's kind of joined together and doing I guess it's kind of like profit sharing between the counties and stuff that they do, and it really helps the economic base of each county, and it's something that we've looked at, and I think it's something we probably need to pursue.
I know we talked about those at the Linda Wisco meetings that I have attended, that we need to push, actually get together and push for growth.
If you created a Duffield Development Authority today, it would have a revenue sharing provision in that happened to exist before that existed in state law.
Two guys, Carol and Grayson, that we talked to, and Dane was talked to, they've agreed they're gonna come to Linda Wisco and give that presentation. It's just a matter of us setting up that, talking to them for the next meeting, and they also said they would come before this board. But, I don't think they would have to do that since 4 of us are on that board, and Ms. Rowe and I could attend the meeting and get the same presentation without them having to make 2 trips down here. Now, and that would cover a lot of Scott and Wise counties that have not seen this presentation, but I mean, it's just unbelievable what they've done over there.
They
Good
made
job.
a presentation. One of the breakout sessions at BACO this year was a presentation they did. They did half of the meeting, and then somebody from Chesterfield or somewhere did the other, which didn't relate to us too well. But theirs related very well to this region, and it's very similar. Of course, there it's the 2 counties, but also the city of Galax, which is very similar to 3 counties and the city of Norton for us. So
Right, exactly.
they're all in a revenue sharing agreement on it. And of course, they're developing the new park there in Carroll County on the interstate. And one of the things I asked them about is, do they still compete against one another? And Gary's first response was, as long as we know, if we know they're dealing with one county, we'll ask them, are you dealing with Grayson or Galax? If you are, we won't talk to you about the project.
Right.
But, if they're not dealing with them, then they'll deal with them individually with a prospect. But if they know they're already talking to one of the other localities that's in their cooperative there, they will not compete against each other.
But they share information,
Yes.
even though each one of them wanting this certain company, they'll share any kind of information, and let the best man win,
And I think that's one of the problems throughout our region, not just the 3 counties in the city of Norton. Take in all the Coalfield counties and anything that touches us, but everyone is so desperate. You compete against everybody, and in the long run, it hurts us. I mean, they're playing us against each other.
That's right, exactly.
Does anybody else got any more questions for Mr. Skinner? Mr. Skinner, we appreciate you and Larry Vickers coming over and having us this. Thank you for your hard work, Larry. I think it's something that's very important to us and to our region. And need to get the bull by the horns and go.
You got it. Thank you. We can turn this around.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
It's not dead. We can turn it around. We just gotta go sell this area.
We'll make Appalachia our brand.
We got a lot of good things to sell.
Oh,
I can just think right off the bat, one objection is, we don't have a lot of crime rate compared to Richmond.
Right.
There's a lot of things we have positives, so we'll sell around the rest of it.
and change this place so that we don't have all these stupid TV shows on.
Thanks for making time on your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. You're all welcome anytime.
James.
Okay, next item on the agenda is constitutional officers, treasurer's report. Everybody has a copy on the desk. Anybody have any questions? If not, at this time, I'd like to open the floor for public expression. Anybody? Okay, close the floor for public expression. Approval minutes, January 20th regular meeting and February 5th regular meeting. Should that not be a recess meeting, Mr. Cole?
Yes, should be, February 5th should be.
Motion to approve, anybody?
So moved.
Got a motion second?
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Next item is payroll, approval of disbursements.
Motion to pay the bills.
On the motion to pay the bills, do I hear a second? Anybody want to pay the bills?
I'll second.
All right, got a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none? Delegations, I guess they've snowed in, aren't they, Mr. Pope?
Apparently, I don't see either one here.
Okay, next item on the agenda is finance monthly appropriation.
I make a motion that we approve resolution monthly appropriations 15-003.
Okay, got a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item is supplemental appropriations.
Make a motion we approve the supplemental appropriations.
Motion, second, all in favor, aye, any
Aye.
discussion? Okay, new business, board appointments, building code of appeals.
That was in Mr. Slink's district.
I don't have anybody at this point, so I'll make a motion we table that.
Take a motion table,
Second.
motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none? Black Diamond Resource Conservation and Redevelopment, Jerry Engel.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Angle.
Okay, got a motion on the floor, here a second.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none? What about
I
alternate?
started to say we'll let go for the alternate
Will
as
that go for the
well.
alternate too, Mr. Crabtree?
Yes, sir, that'd be okay with the board.
Jeffrey Woodard.
As an alternate. Had a motion on that. Ms. Rhodes, you want to continue your second?
I do.
Okay, motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none? Planning Commission, make a motion we table that to next month.
Mr. Chairman, how many members are on that planning commission? 7, 5?
I think
5.
Who is in district? Because Mr. McCall used to be in 2.
He was in 2. He's now in District 1. So actually, there's 2 in District 1 now. Mike Brindle was the other
Okay.
in District 1. Mr. McConnell got moved through redistricting.
that would be yours then, Mr. Crabtree.
I'd like to table that, if that's fine with the board.
Okay, got a motion table, here a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none? Redevelopment Housing Authority,
Make a motion to reappoint Ronald Crabtree.
okay, got a motion here, a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none? Woodway Water,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we reappoint James Shelburne to Woodway Water Authority.
Second.
okay, got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none? Bailey Town Construction Ready Water Project.
Chairman, there's a resolution in your packet. This project was submitted to Department of Housing and Community Development for funding under their Construction Ready program. This resolution would authorize me to sign the request for release of funds and any certifications that signify that the environmental review is complete, and to request release of the grant funds.
Make a motion, we there a number on it?
There's not this was a certification that was provided by them. We can attach a number to it when we, look and see. It'll probably, I don't think we've got any other resolutions in the package, so it should be 15-004.
Okay, make a motion we approve resolution 15-004.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none. New dumpster quotes.
We have requested quotes for the purchase of 16 new 8 cubic yard front load slack top dumpsters. We typically do this in May or June, but decided instead of waiting right to the end of budget time, we're pushing to try to get the invoice in, go ahead and do it a little bit earlier. And as you heard earlier, he's got quite a few that need repairs and could use some replacing units. He requested quotes from 3 vendors. Only 2 actually provided quotes. Municipal Equipment out of Louisville, Kentucky gave the low quote $13,936, as opposed to Midstate Equipment in Buchanan, Virginia, $14,460. This is delivered price for 16. That's 2 trailer loads.
Gary, how many of these are actually burnt? I know Mr. Mose and I seen about 10 on fire one night in one location. And we didn't sell them, so don't blame us, but.
There was 3 at St. Charles that I think you're all talking about.
I think there's more than that, or I thought there was.
And then there was 2 at Turner's Tipple, 606, the same night. And 1 at Hurricane Bridge, all on the same night. I mean, basically the ones that have no paint left, you can tell they've been burnt.
Is it mainly the unmanned ones though? I mean, it's
Yeah.
not been maintained well.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them are the unfenced sites or where there's not been a presence of.
It seems like every time we turn around, we're ordering new dumpsters. I mean, and that's,
Yeah.
which I know that's a lot of wear and tear, but.
Yeah.
With 200 plus out there,
Yeah.
some of them are really old.
But
Yeah.
once they're burning, that metal's just gone.
Yeah, and we patch them, and the ones we patch, you know, that's the ones we try to send back out to the unmanned sites. And basically, that's just a Band-Aid for those. I mean, there's no real fix for them until you completely take care of that issue
Okay, what's the board's preference here?
Are these comparable in quality of construction?
to what?
I mean, how do they compare?
To each
I
other.
mean,
Well, I mean, they're basically the same thing we've had in the last, few years. Of course, they're getting thinner as years go. They're typically not going to last as long as what they was several years back.
Question is, do the dumpsters from municipal, are they the same quality as those from Midstate? Is there any
Yes.
difference in the quality?
No,
Okay.
they're both equal. I expect them both the same, and they both come in the same spec.
okay.
Think there's any way to negotiate with Midstate on the freight?
No, I talked to them last year, and they were basically about the same amount difference last year as they are this year. So they're hauling contractors. They said they can't do it.
Where is this place in Virginia?
It's on the other side of Roanoke.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up there in Southwest Virginia, Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to know.
It's about 4 hours east in Southwest Virginia.
Yeah.
What's the board's preference?
How far away is Louisville? Is it about
About the same.
about the same? See, I hate that, because I'd rather keep the money in Virginia if we could. But how much do we budget for this?
There's sufficient funds, and this is in what we call new equipment, but there is funding there.
Didn't you say you needed 18 in your report?
16.
16.
Well, I requested 16, and that's what we got last year.
Uh-huh.
They come in loads of 8 They used to come 7 to the trailer, now they get
Oh,
8
okay.
on the trailer, so we buy them by the trailer load, and that saves you freight.
Okay.
If you go in a multiple of something other than 8, you pay more.
Surely they would sell them to us 13,000.
I make a motion, we accept the low bid.
Yeah, second.
Okay, got a motion second, all in favor?
Municipal Equipment Incorporated. Aye.
Aye, opposed? That's carried. Next item is stormwater management inspection and maintenance agreement.
This was provided by Lane Group with the new stormwater regs. We will be developing a stormwater management system, which basically is a stormwater basin over at the transfer station as it's constructed. The DEQ requires you to have a maintenance and inspection agreement in place with them for any of those. Basically states that the county will adequately maintain the facility, that we will inspect it and provide an annual report on that inspection. We'll maintain a 20-foot access to the facility and grant DEQ permission to inspect it at any reasonable time. If we fail to maintain it, then DEQ has the right to enter on the property and take any steps necessary to correct any deficiencies. We state that we'll keep the facilities in good working order as appropriate, and in the event DEQ has to do work on it, then they can demand payment from us to be reimbursed for whatever we spend. Also, we hold DEQ harmless from any liability from having this facility on our site. Basically, just boilerplate what they're going to require for any of these.
What's the price?
Pardon?
What's the price?
There's no price for this.
It's just an agreement. This is
just
the
an
price
agreement.
later.
That's what I see.
The price comes in the design and construction of it, and that's part of the construction of the transfer station bid is building this stormwater facility.
All right.
We just have to maintain it. It'll depend on how much water gets pushed into it and through it every year.
But who's gonna inspect it? Lane Group?
I'm not sure what the inspection requirement is. It just states that we're responsible, the landowner's responsible for doing an inspection on it every year and then reporting those findings.
So what's the qualifications for doing that?
We'll have to check on that, but I mean, that's,
That's what I'm saying. In the end, it's gonna cost us.
oh yeah, everything does.
Why couldn't that be put in under the same thing as the gas monitoring and the streams? I mean, looks like that would all fall under the same thing, though.
Well, this is a new animal. We don't have one of these over there right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know why it couldn't be incorporated into the other two.
Well, I mean, they can provide annual costing of what it will take to do that. I mean, it's just an annual inspection and report that has to be submitted.
So you need a motion to approve this or what?
Yes, we're not ready to sign it, but I want to go ahead and get it in front of you and have approval so that when it's necessary, I'll be authorized to sign it.
Make a motion to approve the stormwater management inspection and maintenance agreement as presented.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, any discussion? Mutual boundary designation with Wise County.
This came up a few months ago, I guess in October was the first time it came up. It was tabled at Mr. Callahan's request. I think he was going to try to contact the Wise County attorney. I don't know if he ever had any success in doing that. But in the meantime, the Wise County Board of Supervisors has actually adopted this mutual boundary designation agreement with respect to 911 services and to 2 specific areas in the county at the Lee-Wise line. One, as you're going in on the alternate 58 at the Lee-Wise line, and then the other is over in the Jasper area where the Lee-Wise line is. The maps are the same as what was presented in October. I just wanted to put it back in front of you. Like I say, I don't know if the objections Mr. Callahan have been eliminated or dealt with, but the Wise County has adopted this.
I tried to contact them after you first presented it to me. I never did get a hold of anybody. I've read through it a few times. The boundary designation is only for 911 services. You know, if there's emergency services, rescue squad, or the sheriff's department, there's an area designated for that. Problem is, it has been, you know, it's
not a fatal problem, but the problem for law enforcement over the years is determining the proper venue, you know, whether a crime actually occurred in Wise County, Scott County, or Lee County, and this kind of clears that up, you know, by designation there. The good thing about the agreement as it's structured is if the sheriff, for whatever reason, doesn't like the way it's working, or the rescue squads or whomever else might be providing services, we withdraw immediately. We're not bound by it. This is not the county giving up property. It's only for 911 services.
It's just an agreement for 911.
Yeah, and so, you know, that's the good part on it. So, you know, it's, you know, you can try it and see how it works. You know, if the rescue squad doesn't like it, or the sheriff doesn't like it, you know, then bring their concerns to you all, and you can do whatever with it.
Speaking of boundaries, has there ever been a boundary, just getting in Mr. Bailey's district, hoping on stepping on your toes, and just was curious, down there where they all come together, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia?
I don't know.
You know, if there's ever was something serious happening down there, you have to get surveyors.
There's an area down there, I mean, it's basically identified
Has there
from
been
your mapping. I mean, all that along the Tennessee line, not so much on the Kentucky line because that's rugged mountain, but along the Tennessee line, there are instances over at Mulberry. There's some on down in the tri-state area where there's some houses that are in Virginia, but the only way to get to them is to go, in Mulberry especially, you have to go about a mile deep into Tennessee
Right.
and turn back to come back around. And that was dealt with. They have Tennessee phone numbers. They've always been serviced by Hancock County for emergency services and law enforcement even, for the most part. I mean, for rescue and things like that. So a lot of those issues have been dealt with. You got the same issue down at Cumberland Gap there. There's one particular area that you have to go around into Tennessee to come back up to get to that part of Virginia. There's properties, there's people who own tracts of property
over there, actually.
that straddle the line. They part of their property is in Virginia, parts in Tennessee. Some of them's houses in one state and their front yards in the other, and vice versa. So,
I know when the tornado came down, that was one reason the helicopter was called down, because there was some areas that were blocked off from Claiborne and Hancock County, and those areas were in Virginia, and we were trying to determine if those folks were okay, basically, because everything was knocked out. So I was just curious if they'd ever been a point designated saying, okay, this is Virginia, this over here is Tennessee, and this is...
the line is on the aerial mapping. That line is, the state boundaries are very clear on those.
So what's your recommendation on this, Mr. Callahan?
Assume it's acceptable to the rescue entities and the sheriff's department, I'd support them and go with it. Have you heard anything from Gary Paulson? My understanding, the sheriff's already agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, he's already agreed to it.
If he's good with it, I'd authorize it.
I make a motion, we accept the mutual boundary designation with Wise County.
Okay, got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none, any discussion? Low-income housing tax credits information.
And this is more for information than anything. People Incorporated in Virginia is currently reviewing possible purchase and rehabbing of Lee Terrace and Powell Valley Village. Lee Terrace is in Pennington, Powell Valley Village here in Jonesville. They contacted me specifically about Lee Terrace. I knew they were looking at Powell Valley Village, but they contacted me specifically about Lee Terrace and sort of advised me as to what they're planning on doing as far as the rehab. And it's typical for a lot of these housing projects, what they plan to do. But I did get letters from the Virginia Housing Development Authority regarding both of the projects. No action is needed from the board. You're being provided an opportunity to comment if you so desire. It states there in that third paragraph, a letter of support or not providing any comment at all does not affect the applicant's application. doesn't give them any points if you send a letter supporting the project. It doesn't take away any points if you don't. The only thing that will give them a negative or take away points is if you send a letter in opposition to the development. It may cause a deduction of 25 points, but you're not required to respond. They just give you that opportunity if you desire.
Now, where's the Lee Terrace? Is that?
Lee Terrace is beside of John Marion's pharmacy, behind it and beside it, down in front of the nursing home.
Okay.
And my understanding too is they may be doing some rehab work at Stonegate as well when they do this.
They own Stonegate?
He didn't say, but I think that, I don't know if they're looking at that as a possible as well, but that's not been, we've not received notification on that.
That was privately owned.
Yeah. At one time.
Well, People is in the process of acquiring these two. They're owned by other entities at the present time, and they're looking at obtaining them and then doing a rehab project. So it's more for information, just in case if anyone had an objection or had a comment, and we could provide it. We have until April 1st to do that, so this is something that you can consider, and if you do have any comments you want to make on it, it can be brought back up at a later time.
Dane, you know anything about People Incorporated?
They've worked in Southwest Virginia for a number of years in a lot of different areas, in job skills training, in housing, low-income housing, a lot of areas. It's a fairly large organization.
Loans.
Yeah.
That's one of the
Entrepreneurial loans.
loans that we're looking at for the hospital.
Just a lot of different areas that they work
Yeah.
in.
Well, so if we
Yeah,
take no
we're
action,
gonna-
that means there is action, right?
Right.
Okay, mental health services buildings lease.
Back in 1974, I believe it was, county acquired property from down at Pelican Gap. It's right next door to the old KCG call center property that the IDA owns out there. In turn, they leased that building to what's now the Planning District 1 Behavioral Health Services. They actually received a grant, a federal grant, I think, to establish that facility. That grant required that services be provided for a minimum of 20 years. There's a letter in here stating that they met that obligation in December, or in 1997. It was reviewed in 2001, and the Fed signed off on it that it had met the grant requirements, and so they were no longer under any review requirements from them for that. At the time it was built, the county provided them with a 50-year lease on the property. That lease just completed its 40th year in December. But PD1 Behavioral Health has not used that building in over a year. They contacted me the week before this went out, a couple of weeks ago, just to say that they may be interested in just extinguishing the lease and turning it back to the county, and asked if I wanted to. They were going to look at the building, I guess, to make a last time inspection and see if I wanted to look at it. So I met them out there and looked at it. They've maintained all the utilities and everything in the building for the past year, so it's still in pretty good shape. I immediately thought of the possible use of it. It's a little bit small for that, but it could very easily be expanded. It's 1,560 square feet. It has 4 offices, a fairly large reception area, a fairly large kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and some small storage, and a laundry room. Now, either end, it's just a standard, hip roof, so either end could be expanded. The ground's level enough on either end. I think the preference might be, if we were going to do that, and again, this is for the extension office, if I didn't say that, that was the first thing I thought of. It's about 1,000 square foot smaller than what they would like to have. They have 7 employees. They would need at least 2 more offices. I took the liberty of taking Ms. Mullins out there last week, Thursday, I think, to look at it, just to get her input before I brought it to you all and discussed it. She was very excited about that. It is a good foundational building to grow from.
They got good parking and everything.
It's
too.
got paved parking, that's the
Yeah.
reason I enclosed a photograph of it there. It's probably, you could probably put 20 cars in a
Everything
paved
looks-
parking lot.
Everything looks ADA fine already too.
Yeah, they've got that. You could do an extension probably to this west side, you have to take a tree down, but that might be, the way the existing floor plan is, it would be perfect. There's a corridor there that you could just connect right to that corridor, put a couple offices, and they need a large meeting space and some additional storage. I think a 900 to 1,000 square feet would probably do it. And, you know, it would be ready to go. There'd be a little bit of work, the carpet, she first said, you know, well, the carpet looks fine, but we noticed a couple areas. There's one area that is wearing and starting to pull. Apparently in that front area, the building was configured just a little bit differently, because I can see the wall seam going across the ceiling, and you see the same seam in the carpet in the floor. So they've made some minor modifications at some point in time anyway, but the offices are similar in size to what they're using down here right now, the ones that are existing. Kitchen maybe not as large as they would like, but it's, she said that, you know, it would fill the bill for them, but they still would like to have a large meeting area, so that when they host, you know, 30, 40 people at a meeting, they'd have plenty of room to do it on site instead of having to come to this building and use a courtroom, which what they do now. So I wanted to pitch that out there just to see, you know, last week, Friday, when after the town of Pennington experienced the fire there at Town Hall, I spoke with Mr. Bailey the next morning, and because I thought, you know, what can we do to help? And I was trying to think what we had available. And of course, I was thinking down here, because that building had just come up, but I did go up and meet with the mayor and council and make it available. They looked at some other options, and of course, I don't know if it's come out in the paper yet or not, but I think they're going to take the KCG building and lease it. Made them aware that, you know, this would be available for at least 6 months regardless if we took any action, and I think they were looking for something a little more long-term as an alternative for the time being, to not require them to make any quick actions or take any quick actions in restoring the town facilities. So it's off the block for that, so it would be available to make changes or begin design process for an addition at any time, if that's how you want to proceed.
Are they willing to pay rent on the building?
Who?
The town of Pennington?
Well, they're not going to use this
They want
building.
the KCG.
That's what I mean, the KCG.
I don't know that they've worked all that out. I'm sure they will. I told them, they asked me out there that day how much we would rent this one, what we were going to charge in rent. I said, y'all need a place. We'll work that out later. I said, you know, it's sitting here doing nothing. I don't know that they've, in talking with Mr. James, I don't know that they nailed down a rental fee or rental price or anything. They determined that they're interested in that building, and they'll work something out on that.
Well, I say at this point, I think we need to proceed forward. That's what we've been looking at for a couple of years anyway, so.
When this came up, I thought, man, this is a godsend. This is, when I looked at it, I realized it wasn't large enough, but it was the way the land lay, it's perfect to be expanded. And I've already notified the architect that we do have this property as a possible option, so she's aware that we may be contacting her to start some design work on an addition to it.
Yeah,
We would do that.
Yeah, let's get it done.
That
Sooner the
building-
better.
That building has sat there, not being used for some years. I thought, what a waste, so, yeah, that's good.
All right, I'll take that as consensus then and contact the architect and have her come down, and we'll try to get started on the design for an addition for that. Okay, that's it on that.
Reports and recommendations, county attorney.
Have none.
Reports and recommendations, county administrator.
Have on there a request for closed session, that'll be for investment of public funds, and I'd like to add personnel to that, just a very brief matter. Also, I was contacted, I was at a meeting last week and bumped into one of the school board members, and she asked about their school budget committee. Told her I didn't have it on the agenda, that I would bring it up at the meeting if you all want to go ahead and appoint a budget committee to work with them.
Who served last year?
I did.
You think Charlie last year, is that right? Who served last year?
I think it was those two.
I don't know if I've served or not. I think Tina served.
I've served the last 2 years.
by herself.
I think we just had one meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it wasn't, sir, productive.
Did I show up?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so.
No, wait a minute. Maybe you, actually, yes, you did.
Yeah.
I think so,
You
yeah.
did.
We just had the one
You did.
meeting.
Yeah, well, we didn't
that
have to
I
do
recall.
anything because they weren't asking for any extra money.
Right.
That's right, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
We'll get ready.
It's your turn, Mr. Mosley.
Hey, I was there for 4 years.
Well, you
Beat
guys might
my
be able to
brains
get
out.
morale out of me.
So y'all wanna do that again?
No,
No?
I do not.
No?
No.
We appoint Mr. Bailey, Mr. Mosley.
We've rode that horse forward in a moment.
That's it.
Huh?
All right.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, I said, other
They don't
than
need a
the
certain amount.
closed
They're
session.
Send two accountants in all of them.
I'll, please don't figure that. I didn't say that, did I? That's it. Reports and recommendations of the board, Mr. Crabtree,
I have none.
Mr. Mosley.
Mr. Poe, Billy Hammonds was appointed to, and I can't recall which board, I think it was
Disability services.
right. She never received a letter or anything from those folks.
Okay.
And, there's nothing in Lee County for these people that have some special needs. They have to take them to Wise County, and Lee County's got a whole lot of children and adults with special needs that are not getting the attention that they need and the care that they need. And, I think this is something very important that we need to look in, and a service that we need to provide for our citizens here in this county, that they don't have to carry them to Big Stone or somewhere else. And, this is something that maybe through Glen Wisco that we could get something going in Lee County and see what kind of funding, we could reach out and acquire.
What type of services do you have in mind? What do you
Well,
think?
that's it. I'm not exactly sure what they provide in Wise County where they take these kids, but, it's a shame that we have to carry them out of the county.
Did she get a letter from us? As far as you know?
Nah, not tonight. She said she never got a letter.
Okay, I'll check on it and see what
And,
happened. I'll see if we've seen it or if we dropped through the cracks or what.
She may have gotten a letter from us, but check on that. And then I'm probably gonna try to set a meeting up with, you and me and Billy one day.
Okay.
And, you just get it out on the table and then find out, what is it you need, what do they provide there, and, what do we need to provide? She says that there's a lot of parents here that would volunteer to assist in this, providing this service for these kids. Of course, there's other things involved. I think you may have to have a nurse there also. But, I think that there's some place we could reach out and get some help on this.
Do you think you could find some numbers, Mr. Poe, on how many from Lee County they're actually attending to, and is there any way?
I'll get with them and see what kind of numbers they have.
Is it just for children?
No, it's
Okay,
No.
for children and adults.
okay.
Here's the thing, children are allowed to stay in school till age 21. And then they're moved out of the school system and then to these kind of programs here.
What program are you talking about?
What is it, Mr. Poe?
Disability Services Board.
Okay.
Do we just have one representative from the county, or do we?
There's
okay.
two.
That's their
Who's
two
that?
or three.
Sherry Yates.
That's right, that's right.
Okay.
One of them volunteered to do that, didn't
Yeah, Billy called me about it. Yeah, and I didn't realize till she called me back that she'd never received a letter,
I'll check on that tomorrow.
they? So you got Mr. Mosley,
Yes.
Mr. Sling? No. Ms. Rowe?
Well, I do have several things. try to be brief. I just wanted the citizens in my district to know that I'm still trying to get in contact with Comcast about providing additional services to the underserved in Stone Creek, Putkett's Creek, and Big Hill. So I am still working on that. And I am planning a community meeting, be sometime in April, just like I did before, probably be in Pennington Gap somewhere. We could get members maybe of the PSA, get Dane to come, and hopefully have a representative from Comcast there as well. And also, Dane and I attended the Trails meeting, I guess it's been a couple weeks ago. They are, I mean, this is our last year. If we're gonna spend their Tobacco Commission grant money, it needs to be, something needs to be done this year, so they're gonna try to focus on the trails there and then at Lehman Field, and then that property in the front. Do you have anything to add to that?
No.
That's about the gist of it, wasn't it? Okay. Also, Lena Wisco, when they were talking about removing junk cars and stuff from these areas, there's a couple of junk cars in Ben Hur. I know we have some all over the place, but these are right on the side of the 4-lane. I wonder what can we do about those, and if those belong to people, do we just not do anything? If it belongs to that property owner, it looks like it's left over from probably when the 4-lane was built
Talking
or
about the old-
something like that.
Talking about the old warehouse property.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if Earl still owns that or not. He did at one time,
I think Gary owned
but, oh, okay. I didn't know who.
Gary
did.
Johnson.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what do we need to do
There-
about that? But he's right. I mean, we do have these, but not only dilapidated buildings, but also the junk cars.
I actually looked at that yesterday, I was going up through there, just, because what, I've noticed that one truck on this end,
Tree growing.
there's a tree growing
Yeah.
up between the frame,
Yeah.
and I just find that humorous.
Yeah.
But if I counted right, there's 4 either trucks or trailers sitting there. And actually, from a litter standpoint, or the litter ordinance, I think, or abandoned vehicle, not abandoned vehicles, but junk vehicles, I think you're allowed to have up to 5 that are inoperable on the property. But we'll look at that and see.
Okay. I think as a board, we need to look at that.
Did the Shipmans own that warehouse?
They did.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, they did at one time.
And then the second thing I had was, I think the building inspector asked us to look at the car situation last month, and we never got a chance to talk about that. How do you all feel about Mr. Earlis taking the car home? Because there are a lot of projects going on in Pennington. He has to come to Jonesville and check in first, and then go back to Pennington. And sometimes he's out there at 6 o'clock in the morning when they're getting ready to do concrete, and he has to be there. So, how does the board feel
I just think it
about that?
opens up a can of worms. We've done that before in the past, and then people complain about seeing a vehicle at Walmart or, I mean, I don't know.
Do we pay mileage if he uses his own vehicle? Like if he gets in his vehicle and goes to Pennington first and then comes and checks in, or what?
Well,
What is-
if they turned in mileage, but if,
It will actually save us money and time by allowing him to do that.
But he's not gonna make an inspection in Pennington every day.
Oh, no, not every day. That's it.
You
don't
talk
know.
about the days he's gotta make an inspection and take it home, or?
I don't know. I don't know how that works. If you know, I guess you would know when it's gonna be, or maybe you wouldn't. I don't know.
I don't have a problem doing that, but, you know,
Not every day.
I don't think every day you find that situation. We went through this, I mean, everybody used to take them home, and then we stopped it because they were being abused and it cost the county a lot of money.
And everybody's like, well, if I have to drive my vehicle back and forth to work, why does he not get, you know, I mean, you hear that from every employee. I think it opens up a can of worms. That's kind of why we've done away with it in the past. I mean, it's up to you all. I mean, it's got its negatives and positives too, but, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I understand where you're coming
I mean,
from.
on the days that he does,
If he knows, you know, and he'd have to know the day ahead, I mean, people are not gonna call him at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, you need to come out here and inspect the
Right.
concrete. But
Yeah.
Right.
on the days he does have inspections to make west or east,
yeah,
I don't have a problem with it.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
You need something on that for the,
no,
for,
I mean,
I guess.
If you want to put it in form of a motion, that's fine. Doesn't matter to me.
You got consensus, Mr. Poe?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can it just run through you, Dane?
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, if there's
Yeah.
days and he wants to, if he knows he's got an inspection early the next morning and wants to take it that afternoon, that's fine.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of them need that morning so they can
Mhm.
be ready to work at 8.
Exactly.
When they come in, and that's fine. I don't see no problem with
I'd feel good if Dane was kind of,
that.
If he's making an
Both
inspection
sides.
on his way in that afternoon, if he's doing a 4 o'clock inspection, you know, take it and come back the next morning.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna happen every day.
No, it won't happen
No.
every day, but, okay,
That's
I
fine.
guess that's fine. I guess the last thing I have is, does the county have any shelters for people during this cold spell? I've been asked that.
We haven't opened any up.
Has there been any requests,
Uh,
or is there something
no,
you can?
We've got designated areas.
We have 3 schools that we designate to open, which is Thomas Walker, Jonesville Middle, and Pennington Middle. Now, on yesterday, Mr. Bailey called me, not this Mr. Bailey, Alan Bailey called me, and said that dispatch had called and wanted to know if we were thinking about opening up shelters. And my question was, well, for what? Is there any power outages? Do we know of any widespread power outages that people were without power? No, he hadn't heard of any. I said, we talked a little bit more. I said, well, have the dispatchers received requests from people saying they need a shelter? And he said, no. They mentioned that some people that maybe are on oxygen might need it. And I said, well, you can't open a shelter if there's no need. I mean, if we open a shelter, it has to be manned. It has to be staffed. There's a process and a procedure that we have to go through if it's going to be opened.
Right.
And someone has to stay there. And if no one shows up, then you've got people out, and especially on a day like yesterday, social services typically mans them. Social services didn't even work today. Their employees didn't even come to work today. So they closed as an agency. So if they can't get out to come to work, it was going to be hard to do that. He did spend some time today trying to contact the school superintendent. He finally talked to Mr. Engel. He said they had some of their schools that they haven't even had anybody get out to them. Their maintenance people haven't been able to get out and go check on them. We talked about a couple of other options in the event of an emergency. But again, and they're giving some high winds tomorrow into tomorrow night. The areas that are probably going to be most affected by those are areas south of us who got mostly ice and rain yesterday, freezing rain and ice, and they've got ice buildup on power lines. It's not to say we couldn't have issues, and if we do, we'll look at getting a shelter open. The last couple of times that we have activated shelters, either, trying to think, one was for probably spring storm damage, and the one prior to that, I don't remember, but we didn't have anybody show up. I mean, we got people out to man them, but no one showed up at the shelters. And in weather like this, I mean, if it's an emergency, if people lose power and need a place where there's, heat, we've got to find even some of our shelters. If it's a widespread outage, some of the designated shelter areas may not even have power, so they can't help them that much either. Now, with the school system, their boilers can still put heat into the school. And my comment today was, I doubt that they've let the fires go out at the school, they've just let them die down. They've still got some heat in the building, because they have to keep their water pipes from freezing. And we would have to, muster those up. But when they're not having school, it creates a little bit more of an issue for us, and the parking lots aren't cleared. And could those people actually get out from where they're at to get to a shelter? Are they going to need transportation to get to that shelter if that situation arises? But to my knowledge, there's been no request from anyone that the shelter be provided. There's always an emergency plan that provides for those shelters to be opened in the event that there's a need for them. But we don't activate and open a shelter just because we've had a snowstorm and may have something happen, because again, you've got to have them staffed.
Well, could we not put a public announcement in the paper? Because I don't know how many people even know that that's even offered, to be honest with you. And, you know, that if there's widespread power outages, blah, 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 you know, we got Thomas Walker, Jones, and Pennington. I mean, but you know that it needs to be specified what we're opening for, we're not just opening just because it's cold.
Right.
It's,
Right, I mean, it has to be a true emergency. I
Right.
mean, we have to have an emergency situation before we
you
activate.
think we could outline something, put it in the paper like that, just to let the public know exactly what we
Yeah,
what we
because,
do?
I mean, the last time we did this, I mean, you have to provide, if it's at night, you've got to be able to just have them a place to sleep.
Mhm.
You've got to provide, if you keep them for a very long period of time, you've got to have a facility that you can provide food and water.
Food and water.
And, you know, you can't stock all of that in advance and open one and then not have a situation arise where you actually activate it.
It's been meals from Army class about 20 years. can't
Just
we?
wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
if somebody called the
Jim
sheriff's
Baker's
office and
food.
needed where to go, that they would have somewhere to go.
If it's one individual, no. I mean, do we activate a shelter for one person?
Well, how
I
many
guess
does
it's-
it take?
Well, again, you have to have, you're looking for something widespread, or widespread damage, or widespread outage, you know, several people without. Most people in that circumstance go to a neighbor's house or, you know, somewhere else. If it's an isolated area where one home's out of power, something's wrong anyway, typically. I mean, you know, there's another issue at work. But the emergency operations plan, I mean, it's not, typically there's an event that triggers it.
Snowstorm?
If it creates widespread outages. We opened shelters in '08 or '09 in the December. We had 2 big snows in December, and we activated shelters at that time.
Okay.
We had
That's when the-
maybe
no fire
15
there for-
people that showed up at one of them
Yeah.
and left within 3 or 4 hours. Went back home.
I don't blame
You know, back in '93, I think, that had that blizzard, and the people, some of those people in St. Charles that didn't have electricity for over 2 weeks. And even at the mines, we didn't have it for a week.
That's stuff like that, that's,
But, I mean, if you couldn't take them down to the St. Charles school, because they didn't have any power either.
right.
We had similar in Blackwater area in the '08, '09, whichever what year that was. In some other areas, there was people without power for over a week, but you couldn't get them to leave their house. They either went to family or neighbors or stayed put. They had kerosene heaters. They didn't want to leave their home. They
Right.
didn't want to leave their property.
Actually, I mean, if you leave your house without anybody attending to it, and trying to keep some kind of heat in it, you're gonna have a disaster. You're gonna have busted water pipes and everything. I mean, most people know that. They're prepared for that.
And that's typically what happens in this type of
But,
weather.
you know, when you get your house wiped out or something like that, then that's,
Wood pile is too low.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, come back to me for a second.
Okay, Mr. Smith, you got anything else?
Yeah.
All right.
Does everybody know about David Jesse's project? Y'all do? Okay, I just want to say that David has a meeting planned in Dryden on Tuesday. Thursday at 6 o'clock. Yeah, everybody knows, okay, that's all I'm saying.
Anything else, Mr. Sherman?
If I could, along those lines, since you brought that up, just to dispel the rumor, I had heard there was a rumor out there that that's what this erosion and sediment control amendment was about tonight, was to accommodate that. And again, that started in November by DEQ when the changes were made. They said, look, there's a new state model that's out there and you need to do this. And if you look at the erosion and sediment ordinances, you'll find that there's specifically an exemption for mining operations or quarries because they're regulated by the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energies, and we have no regulatory authority over them to begin with. So the DNS ordinance doesn't cover that to start with.
Make a motion, we go into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 and A6.
Okay, got a motion, here a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll poll vote, make sure we didn't talk about nothing that we weren't supposed to in executive session. Mr. Crabtree?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Mr. Slint?
Yes.
Ms. Rowe?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey, yes. We're back in open session.
Make a motion that we hire Jimmy Mullins for the part-time transfer position at minimum wage.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
I make a motion that we extend a line of credit to the IDA for $50,000.
Okay, got a motion on the floor to hear a second.
Second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? That's it. Anything else, Mr. Pope?
That's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
See you next time.
That's it.